Good morning, everyone. There we go. So we've talked about IR4 before, and it's a specialty crop program. It's used for funding pesticide registrations for specialty crops, and we've had some success. We traditionally don't use this a lot in sugarcane. Back in when Headline was first, Dr. Hoy got Headline through the IR4 program, if I remember right, for rust control. And most recently, we've used the project for other projects, for other programs that we're going to talk about today. So it's funding is relatively flat, but it is a program that's funded through the through government agencies, different USDA government agencies, NEFA, ARS, FAS, and APHIS. You can see that 11.9 million is what we get now. That's vastly underfunded. It's been in the past, it's been probably opposite, and you can see in-kind support has had to pick up some of the registration cost and some of the costs of the program. I've been appointed to the Commodity Liaison Committee, and what it is different commodities that use the program. We all get together and we try to lobby for more funding and to try to get funding in different ways to help the project, because it does cost a lot to get all of these projects, these products registered. There's a lot of residue testing is mostly what happens, but and sometimes for some projects they have to actually do efficacy testing, and so it's very expensive, and we'll go through some of that as well. How does it work? Well, first of all, you identify a pest problem, whether it's a weed or an insect or whatever you're having. Identify a management solution. Every time we've brought forth a project, we've had efficacy data, so we don't have to prove that the project or the product works. So all we need to do is get residue testing whenever we need to bring a project forward. But by identifying your management solution, you fill out your IR4. It's an online application, and you submit the request for whatever product you'd like to run through the IR4 program. And requests can be submitted by grower groups or consultants, research extension, any stakeholder that has a vested interest in seeing that product registered for that specialty crop. Those requests are normally sent about this time, sometime in the spring, and they assemble all the different projects, and they bring them to 4 regional workshops, and you can see the map of those regions. Of course, we're in that southern region. The projects are prioritized by each region. So let's say you have tomato growers or some specialty crop in your area that's really important, like for us with sugarcane, for instance. We go before the regional workshop and we plead our case, and it's up for consideration. If anybody has any questions or anything, we're there to defend it. It's very important that you have the registration, the primary registrant on board, so that if you want their product to be used for this issue, that they would support the product being labeled. There's also a national workshop once you survive the regional workshop, final priorities are set at the national workshop. Just this past year, we had 350 projects were submitted, and only 40 received top priorities. And this is where the funding really comes in. Back when a couple of years ago, we had 46 projects that were able to receive a priority. This past time, we only had 40. But anyway, going through the projects, we've had some recent successes. We talked about the headline success that Dr. Jeff Hoy did by himself. I tell you, hats off to you, Doc, because it's a process that takes a lot of coordination. For this particular project, Dr. Al Orgeron had done some work to show that divine nightshade was causing 50% reduction in yield in some places. He looked at triclopyr, and Dow is the primary registrant. They declined participation, but Helena Chemical said that they would support IR4 request for Tricera. And that was in 2019. And it took a lot of cooperation with Helena, Dr. Orgeron, Kenneth Gravois, myself, and all the different people from Florida, Texas, and a lot of consultant groups. Everybody sent in Me Too requests and to support the project. We went through actually the first time we submitted was in 2017. We had a little learning curve. 2017 for the 2018 fiscal year, it did not get funded because we didn't know we had to do some things. We submitted the application and didn't know we had to follow through with it. And so in 2018, we started again and we got it approved for the 2019 crop year. 7 residue trials were put out, 5 in Louisiana, 2 in Florida. And we had 1 that was supposed to be put out in Texas, but it wasn't put out until last year. And that residue trial was put out last year and harvested, and all the data was collected. Now, IR4 has trained scientists that manage these studies. And these studies are put out at different research stations, research farms, commercial farms, and the cane is grown. And after the cane is harvested, the chemical residue tests are processed into sugar, and then the data is analyzed and sent to EPA for submission of the label, the full label on that product. So everything's done for Tricera as I know it. We're waiting on this last data analyzation and summarized to be reported. As I appreciate it, I think we're online. In the meantime, we've been working under a state label to get Tricera to be used, and that has worked out well for us. This past year, with the help of Dr. Blake Wilson and Kenneth Gravois, we put forth Cevanto. It's a Bayer product, Cevanto Prime, and it's used for insecticide for aphid and fly control, cane fly controls. This project was submitted last spring, and we defended it in the fall, and we were successful in getting this project through the IO4 project prioritized. It's prioritized as a project, and we were one of only 40 to be approved. So we feel pretty good about that. Studies will be started in 2020, and for the residue testing on this project. We got a lanyard last year. We had Florida, actually the Florida fruit and or the Florida vegetable growers um, put forth this broflanilin for wireworm control. It didn't get a priority A, but it got a regional upgrade. And what happens is the project will still go forward, but it's BASF is going to put forth some money towards the project, and then so IR4 funding is not as much IR4 funds will need to be used for that project. So we're excited about this. Not that wireworms are a big problem for us, but we do have some injury from wireworms from time to time. And I think Dr. Wilson and Dr. Penn are going to put out some, or maybe have put out a study already to see how effective this chemistry will be on wireworms in Louisiana. So we feel good about the successes that we've had. It's taken a lot of efforts. You can see all the different Me Too requests that was submitted. And it does take a lot of support. And if they see that they have support from Louisiana, Florida, and Texas, all the sugarcane interests are supporting a project, you're more than likely to get a positive response, especially if you have efficacy data as well too. So we made a lot of friends along the way. A lot of people involved in these studies and submitting the request and getting them through. So thank you all for that. Just a little bit, IR4 funding is a good option for pesticide registrations, but funding is at an all-time low, and we really need to work on getting more funding. And you got to submit your application early. You ask a lot of questions, you network with other stakeholders, and involve yourself in the process. The next part of the presentation this morning is talking about a prototype that this harvester was modified to redirect cane residue into the furrow. And this project was funded by the American Sugarcane League, and the prototype was developed by Mr. Buddy and Mr. Bert Oob in Laurelville. And you can see some pictures of it. This mounts on top of the primary extractor fan. They have two secondary extractor fans, and you can see the chutes that are that open. Those are molded out of plastic, I believe, right now. And I have another picture of it right here. You can see on the left-hand corner, the chutes direct that the cane shucks onto the tracks of the harvester. And as the harvester moves forward through the field, the tracks are moved to the front of the harvester. The harvester rolls on the tracks, and it doesn't deposit the cane trash on top, or as much cane trash on top of the row. We all know the problems that we've had having to remove this residue for the next crop to emerge. And I have a little video of it right here working from the ground. And of course, there is still some residue that's deposited on top of the row. Not all of it is in a furrow. And we've done some work to show, to measure that amount also. Wilson, Atticus, myself, and Dr. Paul White worked to gather this data. As you know, Paul is real interested in some of the soil aspects, and he's hopefully going to be able to get some information on this as well. So what we did, you can see the amount of trash that's deposited in the furrow is quite a bit. What we have this this wire frame that we made. That's 2 feet by 4.5 feet. So that's 1 square yard. And we collect that trash in the furrow, and we put it in buckets and we weigh it. And you can see the on the graphs on the right hand side, quite a bit of tons. This is all wet uh, trash. We look at the different sides when it moves through the field. The side closest to the cane has deposits about 8 tons, and then on the second side, when it comes back, it deposits some more in that furrow, and you can see it's quite a bit of trash in the furrow. We also measured some billet loss compared to the conventional harvester, right about a ton of billets being lost, which compares favorable to the conventional harvester that wasn't modified. We also measured row top trash compared to the standard harvester. That was measured about 4.5 tons on top of the row. The modified harvester looks like it's about putting about 1.5 tons. So about a third reduction in residue on top of the row. And we feel that sugarcane should be able to come through this without having to sweep it or burn this material off. Of course, we're still going to be looking at some more, getting some more information. One other thing we did was we measured the billets going to the mill, and the harvesters are really doing a good job. About 3% of trash of the billets going to the mill, and so the billets are real clean. And so putting that trash in the furrow really has a lot of implications, especially when you're harvesting under muddy conditions in some of the real clay soils that we have, that we really making ruts. Putting that much trash into the furrow really supports the harvester quite a bit, and we could see that when we were harvesting the cane the whole time. That harvester operated mostly in their worst ground. They had one harvester that didn't have the modification on it, so they harvested in their better ground. In some other places, they actually had to get out with the other harvester, couldn't harvest in some areas, and the modified harvester was able to go in and harvest because it's putting that trash mat in the row. So has a lot of implications. I have another video here. Mike Meloso had brought his drone out one day and was looking at. And if you know what the back end of a harvester, a standard harvester looks like, and you look at this, you can really see quite a bit less trash being deposited on that row. There is still some. The row is not clean, about 1.5 tons, but we feel like that sugarcane should be able to come through that pretty well. I think that's my last slide, and if I have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.